I don't have anything later than that.
And where are you memorized?
What's something, what was I asking about?
The
Did you do
deaccessioning.
deaccessioning? Oh, yeah, right here.
Yeah, we
Oh, no.
mostly
Oh,
covered
yeah.
the accession, so we
Deaccession
won't.
guidelines.
Okay, so just a couple items there, so everybody, we'll go through those. So are we, everybody's had a moment to look at the agenda as posted? Everybody's okay with that? We approve?
Mover.
Mover?
No, I'll move that.
All right. Seconder? Anyone? There we go. All in favor, yay. And being here, we assume everybody's gone over the minutes that were sent out. Thank you, Steph. All good?
Any omissions or additions?
Anybody had anything to add or?
Wait.
No? Okay, good. We will accept those.
Move to adopt.
Thank you.
Minutes.
Public comments, nobody's here? Okay. Second, thank you. Oh, all in favor? Okay. Gotta get this system down. Moving on to action items. I'm just gonna go through this list. We're gonna go a brief yes or no. Was it dealt with, looked at, done, or not? And all of these are showing up in the agenda items anyway, so we're going to go through them in more depth there. So we'll just start from the very top. So Jackie, totem pole property, did we get anything on that?
Yes.
Something, yes,
I
great.
did.
All right. I'll wait on 2 to see if Maureen comes in. Mary Lynn?
Yeah, I have a little bit of information on that.
Okay. Number 4, me, I've got a little bit of stuff. That was the late items there. 5, also a late item. Number 6, Jackie.
Yes.
Oh, yep, great. All. So I didn't, did anybody send you anything?
Sean, I did receive
Shauna?
something with Sean,
Yeah,
that was
okay.
it though.
I didn't have anything for you there. Okay, so good. Steph, yes, the crosswalk details, we got those, lovely. And number 9, Jackie.
I did.
Yes.
Yes, okay, cool.
Good list, you guys.
Wow.
Run out of ink here.
Number 2, just hold those. Number 11, yes, got something on for you there. Consider ideas for community life. Yep, we're all look at that. And Jackie, one more for you.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, and Phil.
Yes.
Awesome. Wow.
Wow.
You're hot.
You guys are
We must win
amazing.
something.
Win
Smoking
something.
guns.
That was amazing.
Okay. I gotta pull your lovely statement out front. This up here. Okay. So let's then go through.
Oh, sorry, Maureen's email saying she'll be 10 minutes late.
10 minutes late. Oh, that's perfect. Okay.
There she is.
Oh, there she is.
10 minutes late.
Well done.
Very hot.
You're totally punctual for our
accurate.
race.
Hi, Maureen.
Hello.
Welcome.
Number 2 or
Yeah,
3?
we'll go, we just wrapped up action items, but we'll give you a chance there to look. I just wanted to know about number 2 and number 10, where you were action items. Maureen, just a yes or no, whether you had a chance to
Yes.
look at any of those. So yes to both of those? That's, and number 10?
Yes.
Yeah, wow, that's
So that's
almost.
a
That's a
perfect,
good- that's
everything
Yeah.
done.
14.
We think we should get a prize for this.
Should be a prize.
Brilliant. Okay, so we'll move on. I don't have to move or second the action, we did that. So number 5, business arising. So we'll run 5.1. So, sorry, is this, have you got these like this, that's 1 and then 2?
No.
No, where are those?
So public art ownership is discussion, there's no associated document with that.
Oh,
It's a
okay,
discussion.
we're just a discussion. Okay. Well, let's, well, that starts with you. Can I throw it at you, Jackie, just to go through those 3 items? They were on your list.
The first and the third one was.
First and third, okay.
So, and the first one, we really should not be calling it a totem pole, just, to be proper, it's a sculpture. It's not actually a totem. So it is a bell ringer property. I talked to Kathy Lalonde, and she confirmed that it was moved to the bell ringer property. However, there was no, she doesn't believe, she was looking it up for me, but she found nothing, as far as I know, that there was no agreement or in terms of transfer of ownership or in terms of maintenance of that work. So there's nothing, no record as far as she knows.
Okay. Was there any specific bell ringer attached to anything?
Is it
Company.
Steve? Yeah.
Is it company?
It's, yeah, I'm not sure what their company name would be, but Stephen Bellringer would know, or David Bellringer, I think is actually, yeah,
Okay.
probably David. But I can find that out too, in terms of the contact person.
Just in case there's any verbal thing that might be able to dig into that. Do you know bell ringers at all?
I do.
You, okay.
Mhm.
Is that something you might, just a
Sure.
quick informal phone call to see if there's any like discussion?
Further story on that.
Anybody can remember at all?
Yeah, I
All
can
right.
do that.
That would be lovely. Maureen, was Davies Orchard statue?
It was a combo, I put a post
Oh,
on.
that was you too.
Yeah, I
Okay,
put a
sorry.
post on Facebook and it had a whole bunch of interesting comments,
Okay.
but not a ton of information. Tess Taylor said she was gonna try to get in touch with the artist Dale, and she has gotten back to me about that, but then Maureen, you kind of jumped in and took over, sort
I
of.
spoke with Metro Vancouver, and they have no idea who it belongs to.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
so,
It's just there.
That's just there.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You know whose stepson was the model for the boy statue?
Oh.
Mia Allison's stepson was the model for the boy statue. Yeah,
Mia
Mia Allison.
Allison.
Someone else, Jody Lawrence said, I heard it was Jeanette Renshaw's children. Maybe they
Yeah,
wrote
I had
that.
heard that as well, but,
Yeah. There was an open
so
submission
that's
for a
already
grant.
a contradiction.
Yeah, yeah, so,
Is that a name?
I haven't heard of a name, actually, no.
Oh, is there not a plaque?
There's no
on it?
plaque there? Is that
Kids at Play? I thought there was a
There
title.
is a play, kids
Yeah.
at play, I
Kids
believe
at
that
Play?
is it, yeah, I don't have
Yeah.
the Victoria in front of me,
Yeah,
but.
I think there is something down there.
It's titled.
So
Can
we
make
do
a
not know
note
who
of
owns
that?
it.
Yeah.
Don't know who.
Kids
Yeah,
at
I-
Play, maybe we need a
I
question
believe
mark
it's on that
That's fine.
inventory, it's, the name of it is on the
Oh,
inventory that we
yeah, oh, yeah.
looked at
Okay,
last meeting.
okay, great.
So we can update that too.
All right, so, any ideas about how we might keep doing it? Is it, like, it's not, I mean, it's obviously not like a massive priority, but I think if we can, sort of keep, I don't know, asking questions, not maybe, yeah.
There must have been a story in the undercurrent when it was put in place.
Do we have a year, does anybody have a year on that?
Any ideas?
Well, Jeanette Renshaw's kids are how old now? 26?
Kelsey Knight, they said maybe to try someone at the museum or the undercurrent, if they have a record of previous issues, probably 2000 to 2001.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
it's
gonna be
not-
a follow-up
I was
on
gonna say,
that.
it's not
Does
that.
anybody want to take that one on?
I can do that. Yeah.
Thank you very much, okay.
It can't be Jeanette's way older.
Oh.
Maybe a daughter.
Okay, are you're caught up?
So, you're gonna contact the bell ringers about this, totem sculpture. Can you put an adjective in front of sculpture then, if it's not a totem pole? Native. Native.
It's not native,
First
It's
Nation.
not-
right? I mean,
No, you
it was,
can't.
it was two artists, one is not native.
Oh, that's right.
So that's why it's
The
not.
sculpture.
It says,
Flame.
oh, it's
It's
called
called
it's called a
Spirit of
flame,
the
Spirit of
Flame.
the Flame.
Spirit of flame.
Of the flame.
Yeah,
It was
Spirit
an
of the
Olympic
flame.
thing.
yeah, Spirit of the Flame. It's also a carving, would be-
Carving.
It's a carving.
Yeah.
Both
Spirit of the flame.
artists carved. Both artists were carvers.
And was someone gonna contact Dale Fraser? Is that?
Tess Taylor said she's been trying to get in touch with him. I haven't heard back.
I can maybe follow up with Tess.
Please.
You said she can
maybe your grandmother, that'd be super. I mean, no.
Super duper.
And then I'll check with the museum and undercurrent.
All right, lovely. Bench on the Causeway, was that?
Yeah, so yes, so I talked to David. So the story on that is, yes, the Arts Council, probably 20 years ago, received a grant to put that bench up. It was through GBRD at the time, and now Metro Vancouver, and they do maintain it. It's been upgraded a few times, and I believe they own it as well.
Okay.
And yeah, they
So-
received a commission, so it's Metro Vancouver.
Okay. And how is that, this is, I guess, for everybody, but how is that bench relevant to us? Like as a public artwork? Is
Yeah.
it on the list somehow, or? and if
It's
so,
on the
why?
list as a
What-
public art piece.
It is,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
And is there something about it that makes it significant, like beyond being a bench?
Being on the inventory?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I just think we're trying to identify ownership of the different public art pieces around the cove or everywhere in the public areas.
Okay.
So so it wouldn't be one of municipalities' public art pieces. It would.
Oh, right, it doesn't fall under the municipality's public art piece. I guess my question, very bluntly, is it a piece of art?
I would say so.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and so
There
then
was
my
a- There
question
was a
is.
design competition.
Oh, it was,
There was a
okay.
design competition
That's
that
what
was
I meant.
held.
Okay.
Metro Canada, or Metro or GBRD at the time, conducted that, and,
Yeah.
and you had to submit designs and styles. There's artistic, finishings to that. There's stylish,
Mhm.
adornments, let's say.
So the request from them was about designing a bench
Yeah.
of some sort. Okay, so
Yeah.
it obviously isn't just a bench, but yeah, I just had to make the question.
And so most benches, I would say, would fall under public art. I mean, it depends, unless you ordered one from Costco, which I don't think is then public art. But I mean, a lot of the competitions for benches, usually because they're stylish, they're one of a kind.
Right?
I mean, I guess we need to define public
Yeah, that's what
art.
I was just gonna say.
And we do have a definition in our policy, but it is, I mean, certainly anything that's one of a kind
Mhm.
that requires a design element behind it. And that, I mean, it's not just utility.
Yeah, no, it isn't, and I'm not trying to like open up the question of whether we're gonna determine that bench being a piece of artwork or not. I really did want to know if there was like some background to it that made it more than just a bench, which there is, so that's awesome. That was it.
Their Parks and Trails are talking about creating a bench standards policy.
Okay.
They're making some decisions about recommendations about whether just to buy one or have it made or what. So I wonder if there should be some synergy connection there.
I think that discussion's been going on for a while, so.
It just came up again. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely think that's a crossover. You have, again, there's utility, there's form or function, and then form, and that's when the art comes in. And again, it's, I think, wonderful opportunities for artistic and creativity and ingenuity when it comes to those kind of projects. Why wouldn't we consider it from a,
I think cost.
Yeah.
well, cost of budget's always, right?
Yeah.
We always have to consider budget.
Just that they're making a policy that's going to be guiding their decisions, you might want to engage with them before they make a decision that you don't like.
Their policy would only apply to municipal parkland, though.
Okay.
Metro Vancouver has its whole raft of things, which include maintenance, so they're farther along than municipality is.
And this would be on Bowen Parks and municipal parks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, I think it would be just good for a conversation in terms of, is this something that you would want to consider from their perspective?
Okay, we're gonna table that discussion, I think. So 5.2, draft donations and loans policy, that's me. I managed to squeak one in just under the wire, a couple drafts here. Now, these, where's the other ones? So these are really, these are just drafts, but what I was trying to do was from a few different sources that I had, just kind of pull out, you know, the broad key topics or themes that I think apply to any public art department or public art committee. And so this is like, I think, a good start. It kind of covers the basics as far as I can tell. So I think I don't want to spend too much time on it here in this meeting, but I think because it was a late addition, I apologize for that. If we can all as a committee go over that before next meeting, read through it, and if there's any thoughts, in additions, if you have any other samples of policy from other municipalities that you think could be helpful to include or assimilate, bring them forward, send them right to me, and I'll collate everything. I'll continue to collate, but at least this is sort of gets us on the path to developing policies for. So there's two. I've split them up, donations as one thing. I don't know how many we're going to get, although we're already maybe starting right out of the gate with the one at the library. So it's all very timely, I think. And then the acquisition policy is fairly standard stuff. And there's a bunch more. There's a bunch more information that I want to bring into the assessment, maintenance, and conservation element to it. I just didn't have time to go through all of it and pull out what I think is maybe the most pertinent. So I'm going to leave it at that. Anybody have any questions about it right now, or is it okay to just throw it all out to you to read over the next? Yeah, great. Okay.
That's great. Thanks, guys.
So okay, actually that covers 5.2 and 5.3. You put 15 minutes for those. Should you feel like we want to? I don't know.
I'd be happier to go away and read it.
Go away and read it. Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. Yeah, it's. I feel like that would probably be more effective. People can sit with it and then bring their ideas back. Would be great. And I'll keep working on it. Like I say, if anybody's got anything to add and send over, please do. Okay, 5.5. Oh wait, no, sorry, missing you, Jackie. Adjudication procedure. You have one of those.
Okay, thanks. So again, this is a document that we looked at last meeting, and it was just a sample. It really wasn't get pulled from Gibson's, I believe. And so further work on it has resulted, as I've received some suggestions for comments from Shauna. Shauna, I hope I covered them all or captured them all. So I don't know how we want to proceed on this, if we want to go through it and just think some more about fine-tuning it. One comment at the very top there, we talk about the makeup of a committee that would be the selection panel. It seemed kind of large for our community. Both Shauna and I thought that. So I guess it would vary, and then to say smaller projects may suffice with the smaller project-specific panels. So I guess these are just general guidelines. That's the way they should be considered. So again, I don't know if we want to discuss it now or just send it off and we all take another look at it. Or if you have any questions on some of the additions, or Shauna, you want to speak to any of those?
Maybe you could treat this same
Same
Yeah,
as my
let's
section.
treat it the
Yeah,
same, I think.
they are sort of part and parcel of the same strategy, I think. So yeah, that would make sense.
I didn't see any other, like what you put in there, I think was what I had said, so.
So I think let's we'll take all of this back as homework, each of us, and any additions, subtractions, suggestions, revisions, send them please to Jackie or myself as appropriate. And I think I'd just like everybody's input for a couple minutes then on what to do. How now that we've got at least the beginnings of policy development here, and we could be fairly close at getting something down as at least working working document, and these things would be subject to change, of course, as we go through our projects and go, whoa, we missed that, or didn't think of that, or whatever. There's gonna be a big learning curve for all of us, I think, and the community too, so these sorts of documents, I think, are always in development, but I think I'd like to have something, if for next meeting, we're going to have, I think, what we're gonna call like the preliminary finalized documents for these. We'll have those set up, and then we'll have, having had a chance to go through everything, and had a chance to add anything or make any suggestions, that we will have something to actually talk about and go yay or nay. And I'm gonna assume that everybody will have done that and read it and come to the table with their voting hand to say, yo, we should go ahead and do this, whatever, okay? Yeah.
So you want, comments sent to you?
Well, if it's about mine,
Right.
send them to me.
And otherwise,
Yeah.
send comments
And
to
otherwise,
you.
to Jackie for the adjudication procedure, and then that gives us, 1, 2, 3, at least 3 major policy starts. I think
That's great.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody good, you're good?
So then the next step would they be then to send to council with those at the next meeting?
So they need to approve our policies? The council needs to approve the policies?
I think so. Policies, so are these policies or procedures?
No, these are definitely policies.
Okay.
I mean,
I think-
there are guidelines for how we're gonna deal with our interaction with
Yeah.
our cases.
Yeah, so then.
Yeah, okay.
It's also an opportunity to educate council on the processes involved.
Right. Do you, that's a good point. Do you foresee any like, how do we, let me start again. I think what I find sometimes with people who aren't very familiar with public art and the whole background hidden processes is that it's actually surprising how much there is to contemplate and how many potential issues are at stake, like across the board. And so, if presenting to council, is there a way, given your expertise and familiarity about the system here, any suggestions you have about how we should present or bring this stuff forward in a digestible format? Like, does this, all of these things as you go through them, you want to maybe also read them with an eye to who else who may not have any background on this? If it's opaque, we might want to address that or somehow massage that thing.
I'll keep that in mind.
There would also be a staff report attached to that, to whatever goes to council.
Okay.
And that would probably be written by me, I would think, so
Okay.
I would provide background and context, and I
Right.
would probably present
Oh, yeah.
to council, so they wouldn't just be seeing this in their agenda. It would be
Okay.
and I'd be there to answer questions, and if I couldn't, I'd bring those questions back to this committee.
Perfect, that's great, okay, that's what I wanted. This is easy. Good. Excellent. Okay, so moving on to 5.5, the lock block wall. So, Maureen, there was a thing, there were a couple, I think everybody had something to do with that, didn't we?
Yes, we did. It was
Yeah.
our moment of excitement.
Yes.
And then we had still present thoughts.
Okay, I need to find what,
On the actions, Philip was gonna do the, how many kids and these routines
right,
and
I got
all the
pricing.
comparatives.
All right, so why don't we, actually, Phil, do you wanna give us your feedback rundown?
Well, I figured we could get 28 people my size in there, and then I guess that's maybe 35 smaller people, depending on the extent of the poses, right?
Right, so 35 across the entire,
Yeah,
does that make sense?
I thought there'd be room for more.
Yeah,
I
that's-
had,
35 plus little. Or 35.
I thought 35 little people. Maybe I'm not
I've got
supposed to be
300 feet of linear length on that block wall.
So that's about 10 feet per person.
Yeah, that's not what I got. So maybe I went and counted the blocks and imagined how many people fit on a block.
How many
And I
blocks?
got 42 blocks.
42.
Yeah,
That diagram looked long to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's not. Oh, okay. Awesome. So you got 42 blocks on the longest at the base.
yeah, between like the traffic signs and the end on the other side.
Okay, so that's. Let me revise those numbers. So that's 41, 42, 41. 35, so maybe a rough estimate. Calculator, you have a calculator or something?
I calculator.
Okay, can we do 42 by 5 feet? And how many feet linear is that?
210.
210, okay. And so, Phil, were you here when the video was playing of the
Kids
suggestion?
getting sprayed, yeah.
Yeah, so they were all kind of bungled up a little bit?
Yeah, so I give them a bit of space
Yeah,
to
okay.
do poses and
Okay, so, yeah,
I just realized those initial numbers would have been based on the full extent of the wall before the rocks were put in
Right.
place.
Right.
Right.
So that's where the difference is.
interesting,
Yeah.
yep, okay.
Yeah, I'm just counting up here, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 blocks past 42. So that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
That big line is 42, and that
Oh,
those
wow,
those
okay.
are the extras.
All right, so we're about 200 plus feet of length there. Yeah. Okay. So we could, it would be safe to assume we get at least 40 kids, I would think, right? Like
yeah,
the spacing, like you scrunch them up a little bit, you know, at least 40. And they're small. Okay. So let's show. What do you think about we make a, like, you know, 30, 35? I think we could get 50.
yeah, I think so.
Okay. So you want to make a range of that stuff? We could probably get approximately 35 to 50 kids across
Okay.
there, with room, some breathing space, just so we've got something to work with. Okay, I can go next in terms of figures. Anything else on that? No?
No,
No, good. Anybody have any questions about that? No?
Platform to stand.
Platform to stand on would probably be good, yeah.
Oh, yeah, 'cause it'll be too low.
Yeah. We would need it, we would definitely.
Kind of a
need
big,
a
big,
platform.
that could be a bigger issue than what we, like, bigger, 200 feet of platform.
Oh, no, well, I was thinking you could, you know, have a couple benches, spray a few kids, deal with that, move them along,
Move
a few
them over.
benches.
Are we
spray a
gonna
few
pick all the
beds.
bad kids?
They
Which
get,
kids we spray.
yeah, they get lemon juice and water.
I did ask the day camps if they would be interested in being a part of it, and they
Yeah.
said yes, if we do it this summer.
The day camps, okay. And are they on island day camps?
They
So
are.
kids from
Monday
Bowen
and
day camps?
Friday, kids
Okay.
from Bowen,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay.
Monday and Friday, they're all here, and I could easily get you 35 to 40 children.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I think you'd have no problem getting
Yeah.
the snow.
I suspect it would probably be
What
pretty
happens if
popular.
there's like way too many, like,
That-
how do we pick?
Well, that is something we will have to consider, so we would have to run some kind of parameters on that, yeah.
Maybe age?
That might be a good reason to do it with the day camps. It's just the
Okay.
kids who are registered in day camp, there'd be 28 of
Oh,
them.
and then you can say it's part of the
It's
day
part of their
camp
day,
thing.
that's what the thing, it would be their part of their
That's-
day.
Okay.
So they would
That's
come down with
interesting.
their programmers, their supervisors, stand on our benches, get sprayed.
you've mentioned.
The school had benches, they probably won't let us get them wet, so actually, no, I do not have benches.
So, but then we'll have to get parents to sign off on something. You can't do it without parental.
But they already
They've signed
for
off,
your
they've
day
registered their
camps.
kids, we throw water balloons at them. Or they throw
Okay,
balloons
so
at each other.
you think what they've signed off would be just like a blanket thing?
You can do anything.
I don't think that would be a major hurdle if we
I
got to
think we
that.
could get,
to
if
that
we had
point.
to get the parents, but then we have them all on email, they can just email us back.
Oh,
or something.
okay.
Like,
Alright.
their registration system is handy for that, so.
I really love this project, I wanted to say that first, and this is changing a bit, so now it sounds like it's more like recreational community project, which is also fine. I was just wondering, Marilyn, I think you were gonna go online and look at some of the threads around what to do with the block wall. And I know Phil, you had mentioned before, is it really our role to come up with to create an art project, as opposed to inviting art projects to be created. So just want to be really cognizant of that and really aware of what we might hear from the community in terms of it was a decision made, so we're not inviting the community to have any input on this.
Yeah.
So just just acknowledging that. And have we considered how long we're going to keep this up for? Like, how long would those images be maintained?
Well, I might be able to speak to that when I get to my stuff, okay?
Because that determines also, we say, oh, well, this is a wonderful project for the summer, and we'll consider doing something down the road. So that would respond to or answer a lot of maybe those questions that might come up about, why aren't you?
Yeah, I thought from our last discussion that having a temporary would really solve a lot of problems about like the decision process and community reaction to it.
Right.
And I think that was smart.
Okay. So I got two things to bring up in regards to Lock Wall. It's not all great news. The first thing I did want to talk about though was, however the selections are being made, we'll figure that out, and whatever sort of process ensues. I think it would be imperative that, so I had this nightmare vision of 30 kids running around with paint cans and brushes, and I thought that would be an unmitigated disaster. So I think it would behoove us to bring a professional artist, a professional painter on board if we're going to go ahead with this project, in order that the kids get this moment of seeing their shadow outline being plastered on the concrete wall, and someone comes along and does the quick chalk outline to kind of freeze it, and then an artist or artists, it doesn't have to be one, but somebody who knows what they're doing with paint and brush could be the people to actually like run through and make it look professional. Because really, I think coming out the gate and doing a thing, it would really be kind of sad if it all looked like a big paint party mishmash. So as much as I'd love to see the kids all having fun, and they will, let's end it all on a really professional note. And then, okay, so that's that part about the artist involvement, which I think we can all talk about that or vote or do whatever. But the other issue is the numbers, of course, coming back. So in order to make it so that the water soaks in and actually shows up some kind of outline, it needs to be raw concrete. There's a number of layers, we all know there's a number of layers of paint and other stuff on that wall, and I came up with a suggestion of vapor blasting, which is like an environmentally sensitive option to sandblasting, which nobody really does anymore in the outdoors, especially near water, and especially in the public, because that stuff gets everywhere and it's really bad for you. So the vapor blasting was a great option, because the only leftover residue is water and whatever's coming off the wall. The big problem, there's two issues with that. The first is cost to have that done, and admittedly I was working on those bloated numbers and lengths, but we would be looking at least $3,500 a day, and at least one day to have that stuff all cleaned up, to have them come right bone. So that is not an insignificant cost. It may be something we can press the muni to do, because it's something that would need to be done anyway. I don't know. We could talk about that. The other issue was that in order to do the vapor blasting, they required a fairly hefty compressor, which is basically a large diesel compressor. Unfortunately, I know I asked somebody about that. Was it you, Maureen? Thank you for that. Maureen checked in with the with Public Works, and they do have a compressor, but it's not a mobile one. So we would actually have to have one rented and brought over. And I'm thinking, top of my head, that's going to be about $400 or $500 per day plus delivery fees. So just to get the wall prepped to make that happen, we're already up at easily $4,000. That's not even the taxes. So that's my damper on things. So I don't know if there's if there's other solutions.
What if we just forget about the spray?
Mm-hmm.
Don't we just have the
Just
kids?
an outline.
And then someone does a chalk outline, and
Sure.
then it's painted.
Yep. Like that's an option. Wax sticks that you use to mark lumber could also work.
Just do the whole pose thing, but without the spray.
It's not, the thing about the spraying was it's fun and dramatic and the kids all go and it's on a hot day and everybody's, it's like a bit of a backyard pool party kind of thing, right? That's what I thought was so brilliant about it.
What if we
But you
try-
can
what-
still do that.
Oh, well, that's true, you could still do it, and it just wouldn't,
That might not be what,
it would probably just
You could-
run,
you
you
could
could drip down.
chalk them or whatever, and then spray them and turn them off, and then.
Yeah, okay. I
Or
thought
the other way
it's nice that it
around.
would tie in and have some sort of functional purpose too. I thought that was brilliant. So I don't know that we have. Is this the time we can chat? I will give it. We busted through the first few agenda items, so I'm willing to give it 10 minutes of discussion.
The thing with the spray is, weather. Like, if you schedule, this is the day it's gonna happen,
Yep.
and
then
it
it's
ends up
raining.
being a cold, rainy day, it's not gonna be so much fun. I don't know. They don't
So,
care.
can I just ask what the time frame around when people think this is gonna happen? I mean, we're
That's a good
already at
question.
the end of
Yeah.
July.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
the reality is, there's no
Yeah.
way we can pull this together.
No, there's not enough
No,
notice.
we know that. I think we all.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but then we should,
Well,
is this this year's project or a next year's project, is what I'm wanting to ask.
Yeah.
right.
And it's a valid question. I suspect the answer is apparent, but I don't want to quash the discussion right out of the gate in terms of it's a great idea, and I think if we were able to realize this, and if it is next year, if we were able to realize this, I think it would be really fun and it would be a great community builder for the public art department that I think allows or would allow a lot of accessibility for a lot of age ranges and people who are not even interested in art for the most part. They can see, hey, art is here, it's in the community, here's how we're investing in it, right? So
Can I ask some questions and make some
Please.
suggestions quickly? About that issue of timing, that this could transfer from day camps to Bex, the next class, the kids can come from other places.
Yeah.
We can source
September
that.
is not a
It's been a
terrible
little
month.
later.
Yeah.
Yeah, September, even into October.
Even into October, not terrible.
Are we a charity? Can we give people a tax receipt for coming onto the island and cleaning our wall?
Yes.
I don't know, that's a good question.
I don't see it in this case.
You don't think yes, or you don't think no? If somebody was going to volunteer to do that?
Yeah, or, well, they
A
bill
gift
us.
in kind?
Yeah,
or-
a gift in kind. It's not a volunteer, but
Yeah.
basically they do it for free for a tax receipt that we give them.
I think so.
I don't know.
The committee is not a
Yeah.
not-for-profit.
But
No,
they
it's
can-
not a
but they can
not-for-profit,
issue
but we
tax
can
receipts.
issue tax receipts, like we did that for
Donations.
people who helped with the bike park.
Oh,
It's considered a
So
donation.
yes, yes,
It's
we
an
are.
in-kind donation,
Yeah.
so I would think
Yes.
certainly the Arts
I
Council
think
could,
that's
so
a yes.
if that somehow we could do a backup that
Right,
way.
so that may help if they're amenable to the costings.
Maybe partial, I'm
Yeah.
not sure, I know it's a lot of work and it's a lot of
Yeah,
effort,
sure.
as soon
Sure.
as you're getting a bunch of gear over to Bowen, it's a whole other
Yeah.
job than it is
But having this straightened out will
Yeah,
help
that's
us in
great.
the future too.
Absolutely.
Soliciting
in.
things.
Super great point.
This, it would also have to go to council.
Yeah,
And council's last meeting is next Monday until September 9th, so it's not, it's probably not gonna happen this summer, but.
Sorry, Maureen,
Sorry, my last thing, and then I'll be quiet.
No, you don't have to be quiet, you get your part.
I worked with somebody who sprayed tempura through a sprayer, which is kids paint. So it's paint, it's water soluble, you can clean it up, but, and it was going through this compressor, kind of reasonably portable.
Okay.
So to your question about whether kids would put up with this and parents, we could spray white paint on these children. Maybe. It's much more complicated, I think, in terms of safety.
Yeah.
But
right.
then we don't have to prime the wall.
Right.
Saves us a lot of money.
Okay.
Anyway, there you go.
The
Kids
kids
would
would
rather
relax, like if they
The
have
kids
a
would
lot
probably
of
love it.
paint covered.
Yeah.
The kids would love it.
Yeah.
I could see that working with kids families who volunteer.
Yeah.
So,
But
Which would be
temporary will
fine,
wash
it would-
off though.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
So
just, it's like
it's
kids
really
paint.
part
right?
of it, yeah.
yeah, we would put a call out to say who would like to be involved in
Yeah.
this. We
Right,
wouldn't
yeah.
choose the day camps or choose a
Yeah.
class.
Right.
You
Right.
are gonna get white paint. It's
Yes.
great idea.
Yeah.
So-
And sign.
And then they can all wear masks and goggles, and, you know,
Yeah.
we just need the outline. And,
Yeah.
It's a great idea,
Yeah.
can we, we got, so, how are we gonna phrase that? We're just gonna do a list of like options, thoughts, factors, okay. Sorry, go ahead, Maureen.
I'm wondering if we should make a recommendation to council to undertake the work needed to assess that wall more formally. We've talked about it for quite some time, and it's always been on the horizon because the Cardina Corner improvements were going to be happening, and they are going to be happening
Right.
in September or October of this year. So if we can connect them up as part of the Cardina project, it might be time effective, it
To,
might be cost effective.
to clean the walls.
To clean the wall, to prep the wall,
Yeah,
to
okay.
essentially prepare the canvas that we
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
for future work.
All right.
So I've got a draft recommendation, Steph. Okay. That the committee recommend that council direct staff to investigate the process and cost for preparing the block wall for future public art projects. That makes sense?
Excellent, yeah.
That's great.
It would be
future
great.
public art project.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because if it could be prepped raw, then all of our decisions after that
Or easier.
point are easier. And we can choose materials that don't require such a labor-intensive or costly process to get back off,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
so it'd be great if they would,
And an
Consider that.
estimated cost, if we were able to tell them, it might be, 4K, 5K,
4,000 or 5,000, yeah.
then it gives them some basis to
Consider that as a recommendation.
I wouldn't put it in the recommendation, it might come up in conversation when the recommendation's discussed at council. Yeah. So I move that.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Great.
Okay, there we go.
All in favor?
All in favor?
It's a great plan.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great. In terms of material to paint, I did reach out to Metro Vancouver and got tossed around to some different departments, but I did hear from, just checking his name, David Lewis today, and he works street activities, and so he said, yeah, he'd happy to talk about any technical issues around that, or around whatever we want to do, but then I thought, well, I'll come back and get some more details so that I can be a little more coherent or informed when I speak to him again. So he sounds like he'd be really great to ask on any kind of technical questions about different media and once we're clear on what we want.
Okay.
And he might actually help guide us with some other options as well.
I think that covers all the action items regarding the rock wall artwork. Are there any ideas otherwise that anybody can think of off the top of their head about, like in terms of the materials, investigating what Metro's doing is great. Phil, you've got a lot of experience with unusual materials in terms of like, and tempera was a great suggestion already. I'm just trying to think if there's like other businesses or like what do daycares have to when they use kinds of paints? Is that something they have to be very careful with? Obviously around the kids, is that? Just trying to think if there's other options or avenues of investigation for.
I've forgotten his name, but the Opus guy is up here on Council.
David.
Vancouver.
Yeah.
He may know, or know people who know.
You know what, he will, I can ask David, okay. That'll be an action item for me.
Sorry, David.
David,
Oh,
And maybe
it's
he
really
liked to do
city.
Mhm.
City
You
of
know what,
Vancouver.
I could probably convince him to do
It's the
that.
city of Vancouver.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
very supportive of folks.
Yes.
They are, yeah, totally, okay. I'll ask him about that too. When we get it, when we think about a material he's got, he can also maybe just bring it in, but we'll figure that out
Yeah, I'm
first.
sure
Okay.
you would be sponsored, potentially a sponsor.
Yeah. Why not?
Just to clarify, I mentioned David Lewis, he's from the city of Vancouver, not Metro Vancouver. To
Okay.
get that straight, sir.
He's a great guy. Started out in engineering.
Oh,
I was like, this is too stiff for me.
yeah, social planner, integrated graffiti management, that's his
Yeah.
title.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so just moving on from the lock block 5.5 A and B, so now this were the example of the crosswalk. So this was the thing that was actually sent out as these requests, right? For expression of interest? Okay. And, sorry, Jackie, were you, who did this? Who made this up?
Yeah, there was a group of us.
Group, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's
okay.
definitely involved.
Cool.
I think it was probably Shonda's predecessor. Christine Walker. Yeah,
So I haven't had a chance to go over it, but let's, everybody's got a copy. Quickly have a look over it if you haven't done that already. And I guess this was brought forward because it would be maybe a good template for the lock block wall process possibly. Is that? Yeah, okay.
Further competitions, yeah.
Yeah.
Just generally.
And so this is good for what we might call, like the lock block wall sort of falls into what I might call a community public art interface, right? They're small projects, they're fun, people can get behind these fairly easily. So these would be like the kind of the lower budget strategies, right? So.
I think it actually ties in nicely with that question that got brought up about what our mandate is, because if we are gonna venture forward with more of these kind of competitions based around that wall, we can use the first spray one that we do as here's an example of what you might do on this wall, like here's our vision of what we might do on that wall. And then the call to artists to be able to do that as well. So you've kind of already shown what a community art piece could look like there. Which is, I guess that's where we can use our role as this is how it fits into our mandate.
Right.
But then following up with
open calls.
with open calls
Yeah,
to
so that
use
kind of,
that.
Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
should.
Yeah.
So it kind of allows us to go ahead with a project that we can kind of introduce ourselves
Yeah.
to the community with,
Yeah.
and then say, yeah, hi, here we are, and now, going
Yeah.
ahead,
This is our first project, but
Right,
we're
but now
opening it up to the
every year
community
we'll
as-
do an open
yeah.
call
The rest
for
are
a
up to
lock
you.
block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can
Lock block,
kids.
open call, yeah.
Yeah, the spray is definitely a part of fun. Right?
Yeah,
Oh,
they're-
yeah.
they're checking it, yeah.
So does the wall absorb anything at all?
I don't think so. It's
Not
not-
now.
Paint
You
on
could
it's
just
got
do
paint.
that.
But it's got paint on it,
Yeah.
so the water won't.
It's too bad the school wasn't so
But if you-
brick. 'cause that's-
Yeah, if we just, that for just getting warm up, a little reverse.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I
Let's
see,
do
I
that.
see.
We'll
Oh, and
compress
just
it.
not have it
It'll
permanent.
last for 2 hours maybe. One commuter ferry can enjoy it. People talk about it,
Yeah,
get some energy going.
yeah.
We'll start with us, we'll all go down and do it, and people go, oh, that was like fun.
Yeah.
So you think no one's opening it all?
No. Yeah, there's at least 3 or 4 layers of stuff on there, I think.
Yeah, you can see it coming away in
Yeah.
spots. There's,
Is there any brick on these panels? What about on wood? What about on the shack, the bike barn?
What about that?
It's wood, if it absorbs water. Can you do?
I think the scooter people would,
That's my scooter lash.
Yeah, really, right? Okay, do we have any other comments about the crosswalk stuff? It's just a good example, we'll keep that in our records, so we'll refer to it. I think that's a lot of good stuff there.
should we pull things out of this to make more of a template, or just hold on to it until the next call has to be written?
Yeah, I mean, if that is something somebody wants to take on, I've got enough on my plate right now, so
I can try that.
You wanna try that?
Yeah.
Template? That'd be amazing. All right, action item Phil.
I have the Word document. Do you want me to send it to you?
That'd be great, thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Okay, anything else?
Proposals, is that?
Yeah.
Call for
Yeah,
proposal
call for
template?
Proposals template, yeah.
Can I move to 5-6? Are we all good with that? Jackie, Deaccession? Was that your, we did that, I thought, did we not?
Yeah, I'm kind of confused with.
Yeah, you know what, I don't think that's you, because
We did,
I brought a thing last meeting, and I wasn't gonna do any more work on it, because I felt that was like, I know I started at the end, I don't think we need to suddenly realize we don't need to deal with that anymore, so we can pull that step.
No, okay, in the minutes.
Yeah.
Ending myself. The chair advised the deaccession and guidelines provided would be reviewed in more depth at a subsequent public art advisory committee meeting.
Oh,
This is a subsequent
this
meeting.
is a
You mean not this subsequent meeting? Subsequent
thank you,
yeah.
thank you for explaining.
I don't know that
But
we
they're not
need
even
to,
actually in here.
yeah, they're not in there, and I don't think we haven't even got anything to deaccession. Maybe we don't have to worry about it right now.
We've got time, we've got time.
We
We
might
might
be-
have
we
a whole
might be able to
committee
do
by
that.
the time I have to DX.
Not our top priority.
I guess, I mean, that's our list. Is there anything else before we move to trying to figure out the next meeting? Does anybody have any other comments? Yes.
Just one of my action points was to find out if Metro Vancouver had an art inventory,
Oh, yes,
and they don't,
okay.
but they do have some art pieces here and there, so I can't remember, I think I might have sent it to you guys.
Yeah, you forwarded it.
So I sent a picture of it's a bridge that they had just.
Oh, yeah, oh, that's right, I did see those,
Yeah.
yeah, and
And
some
they're-
water towers or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were tanks.
Tanks, yeah.
And infrastructure
Yeah,
stuff
yeah, they're-
that they had wrapped at one of their park sites.
Okay.
And the wrapped tanks just,
So you really just went there to, you just asked them whether they had an inventory, but beyond that, it wasn't like.
It's not organized in the way that a lot of other functions are.
Right.
They kind of have pieces here
So
and
they're
there.
not developing policies like what we're trying to do,
Not at
anything
all.
like that, super, more
No,
informal.
outside of their mandate.
Okay, so, yeah,
Yeah, but I thought this was
Yeah,
really,
that's so cool.
really
Very
cool.
cool.
And I have no idea how they went about it, but I know the person who did the work, so I'm gonna ask her. And I just kept thinking, that would be so terrific on those ugly ferry pillars, you know, in the cove. You'll actually do something.
In the what?
In the cove, the pillars.
That BBC fair.
Of course,
they would allow that?
Yeah.
Good question, but
It
yeah.
would be very cool, be very unique to go on to.
Well, they're slated to do work in the Cove in 2021. So,
Okay.
something to keep in mind, if you can do that on a water tank.
Mhm.
Steph, did you?
So do you want to share that with Imtech, or do you want to, something
I think it's premature.
premature?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but when the time comes,
Yeah.
just art.
Okay.
And they seemed amenable when they had their session on the Horseshoe Bay Terminal redesign. They seemed amenable to thinking in terms of historical photographs and incorporation of art in Horseshoe Bay, because they had done that at Dawson and a couple of other sites. So why not?
Yeah, it's worth a shot.
Okay. So, since you dutifully went back to the action items, Maureen, thank you. And we covered everything off of there, I think. Yeah. Yes, we covered everything. Okay.
Oh, I guess one thing,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if we have an update to the individual who's considering making a donation. Is there anything we need to report back to her at this time, or?
Regarding the library sculpture and, I forgot the fellow's name, the artist.
Guthrie.
Guthrie, right, okay. So your question is, do we have anything to go back to her
Yeah,
with?
should I be communicating to her in terms of the progress of this committee?
Yeah, I would say that we are close, if you want to say that we're close to developing an acquisitions, we're near on the acquisitions policy, that we'll have something to bring to a meeting that at least she would be aware of where the Bowen Island Public Art Committee sits vis-a-vis donations and how we have to address the possibility. Is that?
Would we have them come as a delegation to
Yeah.
a meeting?
Oh, shoot.
I think that we're developing that donation policy, but I think we'd probably have a form that they would put together a proposal based on a template we would make available. So anybody who wants to do a donation would have to, fill that out and then come to us as a delegation. But I guess the step prior to that, we need to determine the policy, and then it has to go to council. So I can inform her of that process, that maybe council might be seeing that early September at some point, and at that point, then it would be passed, and we would make it available to members interested.
So,
Sound good?
yeah. I just want to ask a question. Last meeting, you made a really good point about us coming out of the gate, the first year of our committee strong, and that's why we went towards this wall project, because it's fast. But could we fast track this donation? I mean, I don't know any details about it, so I'm just asking, is this where we could put our energies to get this out fast? And then that would be our splash, is, a concrete pedestal with the permanent artwork right on the government road here?
Yes.
I mean,
A little bit more impact.
it is, yeah, and it kind of fits more in kind of like public art rather than community art. I mean, we should do both, I think, but this is more, I guess it has more impact as a permanent thing. I mean, I don't know how quickly Guthrie would work for this, or how quickly the
So there
person
was an
wants to go.
actual piece in mind at the
Okay.
time, but she did tell him to please go ahead and, if you have a sale for it.
Right,
don't-
okay.
Don't hold it back. So I don't know if she'd have to commission another piece
Yeah.
or what the situation would be. I think, yes, again, we still have to get that policy passed by council, so it's probably, if we could move that fast to have it in front of them in September,
Mhm.
and then we could invite that proposal to come
Absolutely.
shortly thereafter.
Yeah, I think if we've got it to council and they've got to look at it, then that is, once it becomes a document that we can pass along to the potential donor, I think we would prefer a commission that hasn't been realized yet, because building to public art purpose rather than building to a sculpture purpose is a different beast. Right, everybody understand what I mean by that? Like, I think there's considerations for something that's supposed to be semi-permanent out in the public realm that don't apply to something that's gonna end up in a gallery. So, you know, the internal framework for what Guthrie makes, that kind of thing, would maybe need to be, I'm guessing, that it may be necessary for that to be much more substantial than it might be for just holding the wood up for a sculpture in a gallery kind of thing. It's gonna, well, it's gonna weather, but one of the things that always comes up for large public sculptures is climbability. And if it can be climbed, you can't imagine the kind of numbers they imagine people, like hordes descending onto an artwork. So, you know, Alan Tregabov's sculpture down at the Davies Marina Side Roundhouse Station, I think when that was going in, they had to, and this is way over the top, but it was something like they said it had to withstand the potential of 180 people. And it was like,
This is a hockey game.
yeah. Well, I think a lot of that was coming out of the aftermath of the rampage. Yeah. But anyway, having said that, the point is, you know, his works are popular. The kids love them, and there would be this. We hope they don't, but Mafameli's birds are like a magnet for
So I
kids.
was just gonna say about the birds, yeah.
Crazy. And somebody had a video just last week of a kid climbing nearly up to the top of the head, and then slipped and started tumbling down. Nearly hit his head on a concrete block. It was like, and the parents were just sitting there watching. Anyway, the point is, the internal framework would probably need to be, and that's something if we could have him start from that point rather than retrofit,
I see what you're saying.
right? Yeah. So
Absolutely.
a commission for new would be better.
So there's still a long process after.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even
okay.
invite them, so I still don't see it happening.
Okay, so this can't be
anytime
our
very soon. I don't know.
art coming out.
I don't know if we're gonna have anything this year.
Yeah.
Feels like to me
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's next year.
You know, maybe it's spring.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It's amazing how time flies.
Yeah.
And to even realize one of them, if it's Guthrie's or the well, honestly, like to get all of those things in place and make it actually work off and pull off really nicely, that's months and months and months. We're already going to be at spring, so we're there anyway. You know what I mean?
Do we meet in August?
That's a question.
That's a question.
Well, we were gonna review everything here and then hopefully have. some
If we want it
final-
on the September 9th council
Yeah,
agenda, then
right.
we would need to vote.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
we need to yay or nay. all
Yeah,
those.
yeah, yeah.
I'm also just thinking, because we do something called a collaborative project service agreement with, for projects such as the bike park or the disc golf or something like that, but I wonder if there should be a similar document that would be this proposal piece that the artists would have to fill out, like a template that, like somehow there's gonna have to be something between the artist is proposing this to us, and how does that, there should be something between this policy of acquisition and council saying, yes, let's go ahead. So there needs to be the proposal or some sort of template that is developed to
Yeah.
get from the policy to the actuality, right?
Yeah.
Actually,
So that would be attached to that, yeah.
It would be
It's-
attached
it's
to the
not-
policy.
We've all got to do all that
I
work,
think
yeah.
the policy would
Yeah.
need to be,
Yeah, so if
It's
it's
like a
policy and then there'd be an
proposed
application.
gift.
Description and,
and
Yeah.
what it's made of, and how
Yeah.
the kids
Yeah.
aren't gonna climb on it,
Yeah.
and all of that
Mhm.
stuff, like.
Yeah, and then there would be an agreement, right? So there's the
And
policy,
then there would be the
application,
agreement.
and there's an agreement, there's a negotiation in there, I mean, that's why it takes so long, but,
Yeah.
yeah. But I don't know if you need a template for that, because everything's, it's gonna be different I mean, obviously those main headings that you have to consider, like maintenance and like safety and insurance and liability, those all have to be addressed.
Right, because council will ask about all those questions, so you wanna bring it to them rather than having them.
This template that you're referring to that exists already.
The collaborative project
Collaborative
service
projects,
agreement.
so that's a service agreement?
Yeah,
Can you send that to me?
yes.
Excellent.
It's not a service agreement, it's a project agreement. Collaborative
Project
projects, yeah.
agreement.
And it's when municipal land is used buy an organization for another purpose. So like the West Side Kids Park, the bike park,
Right.
and so on.
Right.
I don't think there's been any service element of it. So if the project actually fits for Guthrie's work.
Right,
Yeah.
maybe we would use the same, similar form.
Yeah, I've got it here.
Yeah. So the artist doesn't, the donor doesn't really want to enter into a project with the municipality, right? They want to donate. a
They
piece of
wanna
art.
donate it.
So once the municipality accepts it, and then there's all those terms around accepting it, that it's the municipalities, right?
Right.
And it's not
Yeah.
going to be owned by the artist, or sorry, owned by the owner, the former owner. So, yeah, so it's not like a project where there's engagement back and forth. There's an agreement that has to be
Right.
established.
Yeah.
And I
I'm
I'm
not sure it fits the criteria.
So maybe it is the agreement then, maybe I'm thinking of
I think
Or maybe we're the people that has
well,
the
let's
project.
take a look at this. I
the
mean, I'm
agreement,
not familiar
maybe
with
it's
it all.
a template.
Yeah, let's take a look and see if it does, if it is appropriate or can be. Parts of it could be pulled into.
Is this the one, or is there another one, like a form that's then?
There's a form that gets filled in.
I mean, the issues that come up here around maintenance and safety and so forth are relevant. I'm just not sure.
Yeah, I just, again, with a donation, there's not usually an ongoing involvement with whoever donated that, right? I mean, there's
Right.
agreements about they're gonna maybe put a fund in for some maintenance, like the upfront, but that's it, they're signing off on it. After that,
Yeah.
it's the municipality's responsibility, so I just, I don't see it as a project as much as a donation.
Could it be the art committee's project? Yeah. If there has to be a body that is ongoing doing this project with the municipality, can it be us?
Based on a policy or an agreement. So I think the agreement even then is signed with the municipality, and so then, for instance, if it's maintenance, that would already have been determined it would fall to public works on an annual basis or whomever. So I'm not, again, it's
I think the agreement would be with the artist. So the donor is just coming to say, I'm gonna
not,
financially,
yeah, not with a donation. Because, you know, the artist might not even be in the picture, right? Now, if she's commissioning it
I'm
for it,
just
that
thinking
might
about,
be a
yeah,
different
for this
situation.
specific thing.
But often it's just that somebody has a piece of art and they
Right.
want to donate it.
Oh, yeah.
So the artist might not even be in that conversation. In this case,
Absolutely, yeah,
he
makes sense.
probably will,
Yeah.
but generally speaking. So, yeah, I think, again, I'd like to look at that closer. I haven't really seen that and see what might be appropriate to pull into an agreement or use aspects of it, but I'm not sure you would be signing a collaborative project agreement per se. But we can look once we've got a draft of this other policy. And I'm happy to pay attention, really focus on the donation one,
Okay.
as opposed to just the general acquisition one, which is,
I guess the other point is to keep it as simple as possible for the donor.
Yes.
If we don't need this, let's not get it. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
All right.
I think it's good.
Can I just keep digging it? I'm sorry, but in this case, we've got a mammoth or something, you know, that's made out of driftwood, and if it needs maintenance, then it's probably, unless it's the concrete pad is not maintained, that's something that I would say would be public works. But adjusting the artwork is not, that kind of maintenance is not a public works thing. And it has to be done by somebody who does it right, whether it's Guthrie or somebody who's way more expensive. You know, like a conservator or somebody whose job it is to do that. And in that case, there has to be someone who has to go out and search out that person and ask for quotes and, you know, get that contract done. So it kind of, maybe it is an ongoing problem of ours, that we're the project.
Yeah.
Because if we just give it to Public Works, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure they're great guys, but who knows what could happen, right?
It's a very good point. And I think, yeah, we would oversee, ensure that maybe there's a checklist once, every time there's a project of public art piece, and it's in the inventory, so we have an inventory, and then an inventory includes when the maintenance would happen, and so then we go through a checklist and say, okay, has this been done? So we probably, somebody needs to
Yeah.
have an overview of that work.
I mean, I don't want to make more work for us, but it sounds
No,
like if we
but-
want this stuff to be taken care of properly, we need to have our fingers in this a
Yeah,
bit.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely, that
definitely.
is a need, yeah.
Well,
And
one
then
of the, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and then there could be an agreement with the artist at that point too, so.
There could be,
I know,
absolutely,
like,
yeah,
any
ongoing
of the
stuff.
sculpture, the carving, the artist, I don't know about, Shane, but I know that, Simon would love to be invited to come and do the maintenance. I mean, he'd be happy to do that as the artist who would, best know how to do that if there was that agreement in place.
Yeah.
But he would have been open to that or welcome to that, so that would be also something, although that was a commissioned piece, so anyway, different, but.
Yeah, but going forward,
We'd have to have
yeah.
that agreement, yeah, with the artist.
Well, it's almost like this Guthrie proposal is a little bit of both. It's a donation, but it's also a commission, because it may not exist before we go ahead with it. So it could be a little bit of a mix of two policies. Maintenance, when you get a chance to read through what I threw together there, you see that maintenance, those issues are top of mind, like they keep coming up at every step of the way, and that one of the things I threw in there, not that I did, it was in some of the literature that I'm pulling from, was that every artwork, no matter how it's coming into the public art collection, has a maintenance guideline document attached to it. That is usually formulated by the artist or the person who's responsible responsible for the artwork's existence. So that's a document that would have to be attached to any, before it's formally accepted by council. That is like one of the necessary hurdles for artwork to exist in the collections to have a guideline, and to guidelines document for maintenance. So all very good points.
And just to, further on this particular piece, which we don't know what it is yet, there's been increasing concerns about vandalism around that area, and so I think the donors reconsidered too the piece because, she's concerned too that it needs to be something that won't attract lots of vandalism, but that area, there's been apparently just anecdotally an increase of bad things happening.
That's it. I was just going to bring up the same thing. And I have, as much as I love Guthrie's work, I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I have some serious reservations about it sitting out there. Because, a meeting Jackie and I had yesterday with somebody who actually lives in the area, said the increase in her term, hooliganism, that's happening down around the gallery, library, is enormous. And I just think, when we've had Guthrie's work in the gallery, he's got signs up, do not touch. And we're going to put something of his out there, and
Mind you, I've seen the bear installed outside, and it's so solid, and it's only about this high, and it's wide, so I'm thinking you could totally play on that. And it's, and
all right, I don't know what piece he would be considering doing, or even if it's going to materialize, but I want us to really keep that in mind, that if we go forward, after we're a bit premature with this discussion, because we haven't got policy at this point, but when we do get it done and invite a proposal, and we're evaluating it, we need to keep in mind about vandalism.
Yep.
And that's very sad to have to consider that.
And liability, if somebody fell off it, and all the things, maintenance, all important.
All of those things are main considerations.
Has there been a discussion at the municipality in general about security cameras? Because that, like on Facebook, that comes up periodically,
Really?
I'll vote on it.
Yeah, well, yeah, someone will say, oh, well, if we had security cameras, blah, blah, blah. And I just don't know if that's actually been something that's been talked about.
Not
Not,
Not that I'm aware of
We
either.
don't even like lights.
yeah, I know. Actually, security cameras in the dark wouldn't be very helpful. I know, that's right.
Well, I think we have a couple security cameras, they're called RCMP officers. If they were doing more rounds late at night, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what their schedule is like, but
Well, anyway, I think let's get the policy done.
yeah, we'll do that first, okay.
Step one.
Next meeting, I think, here's my suggestion. We've covered a lot of ground today, and really, we're coming back, there's not a ton of action items. They're mostly ongoing things. If we can find a date to meet again in August for a half meeting, to just like deal with the policy stuff, get something hammered out that we can send to council before they meet in September, that really bumps us ahead fast, at least that stage. It doesn't have to be totally written in stone, but I think getting something in front of council would be amazing for their meeting in September. So,
Tuesday the 27th? No,
I can't do that week at all.
Thursday the 22nd?
1 o'clock's fine.
22nd, okay for me.
So should we go on there?
It's okay for me.
Oh, boy.
Pressure's
You
on.
good, Gail?
Yeah.
Evening?
I have a day and evening on that day, I'm sorry. I can't do the 22nd.
What about the Wednesday the 21st?
I can do
Good
that.
for me?
I'm in the city all day, but I can do an evening that I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
Are we
would
doing-
choose, I would say yes to evening.
On the
21st.
21st and the 22nd, or just? Just
22nd is a Thursday, just the 21st.
Okay. Can we do 5 o'clock, or
I can't do that.
you can't do that evening?
No, I could do the
20th?
20th? Tuesday the 20th? I'm okay.
I'm wide open.
We're talking evening?
Is that evening or day?
Bill, what's your preference for that time? If you, what's
So I'm away until my 19th will be the first day back, so I'll probably just go publish an agenda right now, just to keep the legal requirements, and then if the material that you'd like to be on the agenda, you can share it amongst yourselves by email,
Yeah.
and I can print it up on the day.
So
So
what-
we're a yes
So
for
on
the 20th?
20th, but is it day or evening?
20th in the evening works for me, just fine.
7 o'clock, 6 o'clock?
Either.
Either, yeah.
6.
We'll run it as quick as we can.
6 o'clock?
6 o'clock, let's do 6. And we can all go home and have a nice Tuscan late Italian style dinner, right?
Got it.
Tuesday the 20th, 6.
So I've got one recommendation to get to council then.
Is there a format for things we need to get?
I did.
She
Okay.
handle.
I did.
She's on it.
Well, thank you, Scott, for running it very efficient and quick.
Yeah.
We
I
like
don't know if
that.
it's quick, but I think we covered a lot of ground. It was good. So I just moved to adjourn this one. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Phil and Rita and Phil. And, I don't know, do I have to motion the whole thing?
Nope, you're done.
Thank you all.
Thank
That was
you.
great. Okay.